Welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the most exclusive, in-depth analysis of the glamorous and treacherous world of Los Angeles high fashion. Today is a beautiful, sun-drenched day, but the shadows falling over the Forrester family are darker than ever. Grab a comfortable seat and prepare yourselves, because we are unpacking a betrayal so profound that it will forever alter the legacy of the characters we know so well. The landscape of Los Angeles is certainly no stranger to shattered vows, corporate espionage, and broken hearts. But the latest seismic shift involving Carter Walton and Daphne Rose Walton is an entirely different caliber of tragedy. For months, devoted audiences have watched this couple navigate the agonizing, silent grief of severe infertility. They were the absolute picture of marital solidarity, a husband and wife clinging to one another as they faced the daunting, heartbreaking prospect of a childless future. Yet, in a shocking twist that has left the entire Forrester family gasping for air and reeling in disbelief, the narrative has violently and cruelly flipped. The loyal, steadfast, and historically moral Carter Walton has committed an act of unspeakable emotional violence, suddenly filing for divorce and placing the entirety of the blame squarely on his wife's fragile shoulders. But as is always the case in the world of high fashion and higher stakes, the surface story is nothing but a meticulously crafted lie designed to protect a fragile male ego. To fully comprehend the sheer magnitude of this betrayal, we must first look back at the foundation of Carter and Daphne's marriage and the image Carter has projected to the world. Carter has long been positioned as the ultimate moral compass of Forrester Creations. As the chief operating officer, he is the man who delivers prophetic warnings to Ridge and Steffi Forrester about the dangers of executive hubris. He is the voice of reason, the steady hand, the quintessential gentleman who has spent years seeking a love that is pure, honest, and enduring. When he married Daphne, it seemed he had finally found his safe harbor after years of romantic turbulence. Their union was built on grand promises of forever, of building a beautiful family, of standing shoulder to shoulder against whatever storms life might conjure. They were the couple that others aspired to be, radiating a quiet, dignified love that stood in stark contrast to the chaotic romantic merry-go-rounds of the Logan and Forrester dynasties. However, the beautiful dream of a sprawling family quickly morphed into an isolating, suffocating nightmare. The journey to conceive became a grueling marathon of negative pregnancy tests, clinical appointments, invasive procedures, and dashed hopes. Daphne's psychological state deteriorated with every passing month. We watched her drown in profound grief, her sense of self-worth eroding as she tragically internalized the failure to conceive. She felt broken, inadequate, and desperately alone in her sorrow, despite Carter's outward displays of unwavering support and endless reassurance. Her recent hiring of Melissa Dillon as an assistant and the chaotic, desperate offers she has been making were all clear symptoms of a woman spiraling out of control, desperate to grasp onto any semblance of agency in a life that suddenly felt hopelessly barren. Through it all, Carter played the role of the supportive, grieving husband, holding her hand while secretly harboring a devastating, world-altering truth. The illusion of their perfect partnership shatters with the devastating force of a wrecking ball when Carter unexpectedly and ruthlessly files for divorce. There's no gentle preamble, no tearful counseling session, no mutual decision to part ways amicably. Instead, Carter drops the legal documents with a chilling corporate efficiency that leaves Daphne completely paralyzed and gasping for breath. The reason he cites is as cruel as it is definitive: her alleged inability to fulfill the fundamental role of a mother. He frames the divorce not as a failure of their emotional connection or their love, but as a catastrophic failure of her biology. He claims, with a straight and icy face, that his desire for a family is too profound to be compromised, and since she cannot provide him with the children he so desperately wants, he has absolutely no choice but to sever their ties immediately. The sheer brutality of this justification is breathtaking, coming from a man who once stood at an altar and vowed to love her in sickness and in health. Daphne's reaction to this sudden abandonment is a heartbreaking masterclass in raw, unadulterated devastation. Imagine the psychological torment of a woman who has already spent months hating her own body, believing it has betrayed her deepest desires, only to have the man she loves most in the world validate her darkest, most agonizing fears. When Carter delivers his cruel verdict, Daphne is completely and utterly destroyed. She cannot reconcile the cold, detached, almost robotic man standing before her with the warm, loving husband who once promised her the world. The ground simply vanishes beneath her feet. She is left to navigate a suffocating, blinding grief, mourning not only the children she believes she can never have, but also the sudden, violent death of her marriage. The sanctuary of her home is instantly transformed into a haunted space, echoing with the ghosts of the family they will never build together. What makes Carter's actions so particularly insidious and unforgivable is the surgical precision of his cruelty. By weaponizing Daphne's infertility against her, he strikes at the very core of her deepest vulnerability. He knows exactly how much pain she is already in. He has held her while she cried over negative tests. Yet, he actively chooses to twist the knife, using her deepest insecurity as his convenient exit strategy. Daphne is left to shoulder the entirety of the blame, walking through the halls of Forrester Creations as a woman discarded because she was deemed fundamentally defective by the man who was supposed to protect her. The trauma of this abandonment will undoubtedly leave permanent, jagged scars on her psyche, pushing her further into the chaotic darkness she has been battling. The betrayal is absolute, a complete annihilation of the trust that forms the bedrock of any meaningful human connection. Yet, the true, mind-bending horror of this storyline lies not merely in Carter's sudden departure, but in the monstrous, unforgivable lie that facilitates it. The bitter, agonizing truth is currently hidden away in a locked drawer in Carter's sprawling executive office. Behind the polished mahogany desk and the neat stacks of legal briefs lies a confidential medical document that holds the power to completely destroy the false narrative he has so carefully constructed. The laboratory test results are unequivocal and undeniable. Carter Walton is the one who is infertile. The failure to conceive does not lie with Daphne's biology, but entirely with his own. He is the one who cannot fulfill the biological imperative he claims to hold so dear. The revelation of male factor infertility is the ticking time bomb at the very center of this tragedy, a secret so explosive and deeply shameful to him that Carter is willing to sacrifice the woman he loves to keep it buried in the dark. To understand why a man of Carter's historical integrity would choose such a destructive and villainous path, we must delve deep into the psychology of a man entirely consumed by his own fragile ego. Carter has spent his entire adult life meticulously cultivating an image of unparalleled perfection. He is the ultimate alpha male in a bespoke suit, a man whose physical prowess, intellectual sharpness, and professional competence are entirely unquestioned by his peers. The medical diagnosis of severe infertility strikes a fatal, crushing blow to his deeply ingrained sense of traditional masculinity. In his distorted mind, biological failure equates directly to a catastrophic loss of manhood. The profound shame and humiliation of this diagnosis are so overwhelming, so utterly intolerable to his self-image, that his psyche completely fractures under the weight of the truth. Instead of facing the reality with vulnerability and grace, his massive ego erects an impenetrable fortress of denial, projection, and cruelty. Confronted with the harsh reality of his own biological limitations, Carter faces a stark, defining choice. Admit his vulnerability to his wife, share the burden, and face their childless future together as a united front, or protect his immense pride at any and all costs. Tragically, and horrifyingly, he chooses the latter. His ego demands a scapegoat, and Daphne, who is already drowning in her own self-doubt and depression, presents the perfect, unsuspecting victim. By systematically gaslighting her into believing she is the sole problem, Carter successfully deflects all medical and social scrutiny away from himself. He can walk away playing the tragic, noble hero who is reluctantly forced to make a heartbreaking choice for the sake of his future family, while Daphne is left to carry the crushing weight of a shame that does not actually belong to her. It is an act of profound cowardice, a betrayal of the highest order orchestrated by a man terrified of his own perceived inadequacy. The shockwaves of Carter's sudden divorce filing reverberate through the executive suites of Forrester Creations with the destructive force of a massive seismic event. The Forrester family, usually entirely consumed by their own internal warfare, is completely blindsided by this development. Ridge Forrester, who has come to rely heavily on Carter as his most trusted advisor and the solitary voice of reason amidst Steffi's chaotic, arrogant leadership, is utterly bewildered. How can a man who constantly preaches loyalty, ethics, and long-term vision act with such impulsive, uncharacteristic cruelty in his personal life? Steffi, currently embroiled in her own bitter, escalating war with Hope Logan over the future of the company, is momentarily distracted by the sheer audacity of Carter's move. The hypocrisy on display is staggering to witness. The man who has been sternly warning them about the destructive consequences of executive hubris is now demonstrating a personal hubris so massive it threatens to permanently destroy an innocent woman's life. The dramatic irony of Carter's current situation simply cannot be overstated. For weeks, he has been sitting in the Forrester boardroom, acting as the tragic Cassandra figure, delivering dire, unheeded warnings to Ridge and Steffi about the inevitable fallout of their arrogance. He has explicitly reminded them of past corporate coups caused by pushing people too far and treating them as disposable assets. Yet, in the privacy of his own home, he is pushing Daphne to the absolute psychological brink, completely blind to the catastrophic fallout his own personal arrogance will inevitably trigger. He falsely believes he can control the narrative, that he can simply lock his shameful secret away in a drawer and walk away completely unscathed. But secrets in Los Angeles have a relentless way of clawing their way into the blinding light of day, and Carter is unwittingly setting the stage for a personal coup that will dwarf any corporate takeover in the company's history. While the rest of the Forrester family is paralyzed by the sudden shock of the announcement, one woman is watching the entire situation unfold with a distinctly critical, analytical eye. Brooke Logan Forrester. Brooke has spent decades navigating the treacherous, murky waters of male ego, deception, and hidden agendas. She possesses an almost preternatural ability to sense when a man is hiding something fundamental. When she observes Carter's sudden, ruthless pivot from a devoted, doting husband to a cold, detached ex-partner, her internal alarms begin to blare with deafening intensity. Brooke knows Carter intimately. She knows his deep capacity for empathy, his profound need for connection, and his fundamental decency. The man currently orchestrating this rapid-fire, heartless divorce does not align whatsoever with the Carter Walton she has known and trusted for years. Brooke's growing suspicions are further fueled by the sheer, reckless velocity of Carter's actions. He is moving entirely too fast, pushing the legal paperwork through the system with a desperate, sweating urgency that reeks of sheer panic rather than profound sorrow. Why the frantic rush? If he is truly mourning the tragic end of his marriage and the agonizing loss of his dream of a family, why is he acting exactly like a man fleeing a burning building? Brooke astutely realizes that Carter is not running away from Daphne. He is running away from something else entirely. The glaring discrepancy between his public justification and his private, frantic panic sets Brooke on a direct collision course with the ugly truth. She quietly begins to ask the uncomfortable questions that no one else is willing to voice, silently observing Carter's nervous tics, his overly defensive posture, and his desperate, transparent, need to control the narrative of the split. Brooke Logan is a truly formidable adversary when she senses a lie, and Carter has drastically underestimated her investigative prowess. As Brooke digs deeper into the timeline of their marital collapse, the locked drawer in Carter's office becomes a silent, pulsing beacon of impending doom. Every single time Brooke enters the executive suite, the tension crackles in the air like static electricity. Carter must exhaustingly maintain his facade of the aggrieved, disappointed husband while simultaneously guarding the physical evidence of his ultimate shame just inches away. The immense psychological toll of maintaining this massive, multi-layered deception begins to visibly crack his polished exterior. He becomes unusually irritable, highly defensive, and prone to uncharacteristic outbursts during meetings, further fueling Brooke's unwavering conviction that a massive, life-altering secret is buried just beneath the surface of his tailored suits. Meanwhile, Daphne's rapid descent into despair creates a highly volatile, dangerous dynamic in her professional life. As she steps into her new role with her recently hired assistant, Melissa Dillon, the office becomes a literal powder keg of unresolved trauma and fear. Dillon is already terrified out of her mind, cornered by the sinister, ongoing blackmail of Remy Price, who is demanding she do his dark bidding or face the absolute destruction of her career and reputation. Now, Dillon must also navigate the unpredictable, grieving wrath of a boss who has been completely shattered by her husband's cruel betrayal. Daphne, desperate to regain some semblance of control over her shattered reality, may push Dillon into increasingly chaotic, risky, and dangerous situations. The terrifying intersection of Daphne's profound grief and Dillon's paralyzing fear creates a toxic, suffocating environment where one wrong move could ignite a massive explosion that takes down everyone in its path. The stage is meticulously set for a confrontation of absolute epic proportions. Brooke is steadily closing in on the truth, her sharp maternal instincts and keen intellect piercing right through Carter's flimsy defensive shields. When the inevitable, earth-shattering discovery happens, when that locked drawer is finally forced open and the medical document is brought into the glaring light, the fallout will be truly apocalyptic. Carter's carefully constructed, decades-long image of moral perfection will be instantly annihilated. He will be exposed not merely as a man who unfortunately suffers from infertility, but as a manipulative coward who psychologically tortured his own wife simply to protect his own pride. The revelation will completely destroy his professional credibility, alienate his closest friends, and leave him to face the devastating, lonely reality of his monstrous actions. For Daphne, the eventual revelation of the hidden truth will be a complicated, agonizing double-edged sword. On one hand, it will provide a profound, necessary sense of vindication. The crushing, suffocating weight of the blame she has been unfairly carrying will be instantly lifted. She will realize that she is not broken, that she was not the cause of their inability to conceive, and that the man she loved was a master manipulator. However, this vindication will come at the terrible cost of realizing the absolute depravity of Carter's betrayal. How does a woman ever learn to trust again after learning that her husband stood by and watched her drown in self-hatred, knowing all along that he was the heavy anchor pulling her down into the abyss? The journey toward healing for Daphne will be incredibly long, arduous, and fraught with a righteous, burning anger that could consume everything she touches. As we continue to watch this tragic, gripping saga unfold on our screens, we are starkly reminded of the destructive, terrifying power of the human ego. Carter Walton's conscious decision to sacrifice his wife's sanity and happiness on the altar of his own pride is one of the most chilling, emotionally complex storylines we have witnessed in years. It is a stark, unflinching exploration of toxic masculinity, the paralyzing fear of vulnerability, and the devastating lengths to which a person will go to protect a lie. With Brooke Logan Forrester relentlessly on the hunt for the truth, The clock is rapidly ticking on Carter's massive deception. The explosive climax of this storyline promises to redefine core relationships, shatter pristine reputations, and leave an indelible, dark mark on the legacy of Forrester Creations. We will be watching every single moment, analyzing every stolen glance, and waiting with bated breath for the inevitable moment when the truth violently breaks free from its locked drawer. Stay tuned, because the drama